Hello, and welcome to today's special webinar event on introducing Rubrik Cloud Vault. Today's webinar is sponsored by Rubrik and Microsoft and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Scott Becker. I'm from Actual Tech Media, and I'm excited to be your moderator for this special event. Now, before we get to today's great content, there are a few things you should know about this webinar. First off, we want this to be an informative event for you, so we encourage any questions in the questions box in our webinar control panel. Not only will we have team members responding to questions during the live event, but we'll also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the short presentation where we'll discuss in greater detail some of the top questions that you asked. Second, in the handout section of your webinar control panel, you'll find that we're offering several resources. There's a link to Rubrik.com. There's also a link to Rubrik Cloud Vault and a few other Actual Tech Media resources that you can check out. So I encourage you to access those resources now and share them with your friends and colleagues. Third, at the end of this webinar event, we will be awarding a $300 Amazon gift card to one lucky attendee on the live event. Of course, you must be in attendance during the event to qualify for the prize. We recognize that some of you work for organizations that don't allow you to accept prizes. If that's the case for you, or if you want to donate the value of the gift card, we work with several great charitable organizations, so we can help you do that if you do, and we thank you in advance if you make that choice today. Official terms and conditions of today's prize drawing can be found in the handout section. Just scroll to the bottom and you'll find the prize terms and conditions link there. Finally, one of the best benefits of this event is the opportunity to ask a question of our expert presenters. So to help encourage your questions, we have a special additional prize for you. That's another Amazon gift card, this one for $50 for the best question. At the end of the event, we'll look at all of the questions, pick out the very best one, and contact that prize winner. And with that, let's get to today's fantastic content. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to our presenters today. We have Christina Avrianova, Principal Product Manager at Rubrik, and Brian Mislavsky, a Technical Product Manager at Rubrik. So let's turn things over to Christina to get us started.
Thank you, Scott. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining our session today. We are all familiar with the worrisome ransomware statistics, and we are all aware how it has become a lucrative business. 37% of organizations were hit by ransomware attack last year, and Gartner predicts that by 2025, at least 75% of organizations will face one or more ransomware attacks. And attacks are getting more sophisticated. Criminals are targeting not only the main systems, but also the backups, because they know that compromising data on both ends will cripple the organization and will force them to pay the ransom. So let's talk today, what do you do to prepare for ransomware attack? Specifically, how do you keep a safe, isolated backup data copy? Data in a secure location, offsite, away from your core IT environment, a bunker if you wish, that is your absolute last line of defense. As part of your IT strategy, you likely are having a secure location where you keep your backup copies already. The common strategies we see in customers is that they have a data center within their data center. It is typically isolated via a separate network with special permissions and controls. And we also see a lot of customers that are still using the good old tape. But what happens when disaster strikes, be it cyber or natural? Are you confident in that secure location? How confident are you that should you need that copy of the backup data, it is clean and good to recover from? If your location is within your data center, the data is still in your environment. If you're compromised, you're still quite vulnerable. What happens if your data center is a ransomware crime scene or unavailable due to flooding, fires, or other natural disasters? That data won't be accessible. And while it is best practice to segregate all services to the secure location, for many folks, setting duplicate systems for authorization and authentication is not very cost effective. So simply they don't do it at all. And once your environment is compromised, all data is vulnerable. And about tape, we can take hours talking about the tape, but we don't want to. What we know is tape is very labor intensive, it is unreliable, but worst of all, it is very slow to recover from. It takes days. Can you afford that? Can your business afford that? And let's look at the cloud, the final frontier. So the cloud technologies have come a long way, and we see them become an integral part of solid hybrid IT strategy. Yet we hear that for many of you, the cloud is not a viable option to store your data. It is probably because you don't believe in the cloud security, or you're not confident your time has the needed knowledge and expertise to administer and secure the cloud properly. And some of you have been burned by the cost. You have archived data in the cloud, had to retrieve it, and you have experienced quite the sticker shock getting this data out. We also talk to customers that are more cloud forward, more adept and at ease with the cloud technologies. They have been proactive and have created a secure cloud environment, a storage environment. But again, when you manage your own cloud environment, it is still part of your environment. Credentials are often the same. So your account, if your account has been compromised, your cloud credentials are compromised, and there goes your data. At Rubrik, we believe that securing your data is securing your business. And before we dive into Rubrik Cloud Vault, our solution for account isolated copy of your backup data, let me just tell you a little bit about Rubrik. So Rubrik protects enterprise data from attacks and delivers the capabilities to reliably and rapidly recover applications so that normal operations can be restored. Here are the 5 fundamental capabilities of Rubrik Zero Trust Data Security Platform. Rubrik Zero Trust Data Protection. We automate backups for all applications and data with an SLA policy engine. All data is encrypted and logically air-gapped from the rest of the environment, with all access governed by comprehensive authentications and access controls. The ransomware investigation provides the native ability to search for data anomalies and malicious encryption events, as well as determine the blast radius of an attack. API-driven integration with source solutions such as Palo Alto Network Cortex gives team the understanding of when and where the attack began, with threat hunting capabilities. The sensitive data discovery ensures the post-incident reviews and cyber forensic investigations are conducted thoroughly with point-in-time snapshots, while surfacing the risk of sensitive data exfiltration quickly. The incident containment allows operators to pause all access and activities in the event of compromise or threat. This includes the ability to quarantine data so it does not reinfect the environment. And lastly, the orchestrated application recovery provides expert-guided recovery post-attack using application blueprints and orchestrated recovery of workloads to enable teams to restore operation from the last known clean copy in minutes or hours rather than days and weeks. The Rubrik Zero Trust architecture meets the data security standards set forth by the US government as part of NIST, the National Institute for Standards and Technologies. So in a nutshell, Rubrik solves the problem by converging data protection and data security into a single platform for all your hybrid and multi-cloud workloads. So even when security defenses fail, the data is still protected and you can keep your business running. And this is why we are humbled and proud that over 3,600 customers worldwide have entrusted their data with Rubrik. And now let's talk about Rubrik Cloud Vault. We're very excited to introduce Rubrik Cloud Vault. and thereby adding even more to Rubrik's data protection capabilities. We now allow you to extend Rubrik's zero trust architecture to the cloud for account isolated, immutable copies of your data archived offsite. This is your data in a Rubrik managed environment. So with this logically air-gapped archive, we ensure that clean, immutable copies of your data exist outside of your core IT environment. So should there be a cyber attack or natural disaster, recovery can take place. Rubrik Cloud Vault is a fully managed service. You can leverage immutable cloud storage within minutes, and with few steps, ensure that your data is in a cloud bunker. There are no operational and management complexities or a need for staff with a cloud expertise. The backend is all managed by Rubrik. If you're a little bit more cloud cautious, Rubrik Cloud Vault is the safest, simplest way to leverage the cloud and still benefit from having an isolated copy of your data. And if you're more cloud forward, you just simply get to benefit from having this account isolated data in a separate environment from your core environment. And all of these come at a predictable cost. You can stay within your budget with a single bill covering all cost, storage, read API calls, and egress charges. Rubrik Cloud Vault is built on Microsoft Azure, therefore extending on Rubrik and Microsoft's partnership that leverages customers' relationship with Rubrik and scale and expertise and security of Microsoft. But right now, I think it's time for a cool demo because I've been talking for a while. So let's go ahead and see Rubrik Cloud Vault in action. Over to you, Brian.
Thanks, Christina. So here we have the Rubrik Cloud Platform. From within this user interface, we can have a single pane of glass visibility of all protected data under Rubrik's management. So in order to create a new archival location stored on Rubrik Cloud Vault, we'll go ahead and click Add Archival Location. We'll give the location's name, and then we'll select a tier. So Rubrik Cloud Vault is offered up in two tiers. One is the backup tier, and one is the archive tier. The backup tier has a minimum retention of 30 days, while the archive tier is targeted more for long-term retention with a minimum retention of 180 days. Another differentiator is that the backup tier is eligible to have immutability turned on. Once this is turned on, you can select the immutability period, meaning the retention of the data that you'd like to store, and for how long it will be made immutable. For the sake of this demo, we won't turn it on. We'll go ahead and select the region. We'll go ahead and put in an RSA key. And then we'll select an edge. And then we'll confirm the changes. And assuming everything looks okay, we'll go ahead and hit create. And that's it. Within a few minutes, you can have a functioning archival location for use to protect your data. So to recap, Rubrik Cloud Vault provides a logically air-capped archive that's provided as a fully managed service and at a predictable cost. So with that, we'll open the floor up to any questions.
All right, great. Thanks, Brian, for that demo, and thanks, Christina, for a great presentation. We do have a bunch of questions rolling in here, so why don't we get started? Christina and Brian, you ready for questions?
Yep.
Super. This first one is, can you please explain the tiers of the offering? And Brian, I'll point that one to you first.
Sure. So thanks for having us today. So Rubrik Cloud Vault will be offered in two tiers, the backup tier and the archival tier. The backup tier will be based on Azure Cool Storage, and the archive tier will be based on Azure Archive Storage. Immutability will be enabled or available, I'm sorry, for the backup tier.
And just to super quickly chime in, yes, we have developed this offering with Microsoft together. We've engineered it together. So basically, you get the deep security expertise of Rubrik and Microsoft, kind of as we mentioned in the presentation. So yeah, we are building on the joint partnership that we have with Microsoft Azure on this one.
Okay, super. This next question, maybe for Brian, how do you start using Rubrik Cloud Vault once it's provisioned?
So that's a great question. So once it's available to a customer and provisioned to their SaaS platform, they will, just like we showed off in the demo just then, be able to provision a Rubrik Cloud Vault archival location and then go into their Rubrik environment and configure an SLA to leverage it. It will appear and be available and be used just as any other archival location to the Rubrik platform. So you can be up and running in a matter of minutes.
Okay, super. Well, we've got a ton of other questions rolling in here. Let's see. Joseph is wondering, is this in the Azure Marketplace? How is it acquired? What's the best way to get started with with finding Rubrik Cloud Vault?
For the moment, reach out to your Rubrik account team.
Okay.
But it will be available on the marketplace anytime soon.
Okay, great. Another question here: what's included with the offering?
So included with the offering is the storage itself and all the egress and API charges as well as data transfer fees. So if a customer pays for 10 terabytes of Rubrik Cloud Vault, then that's what they'll be eligible for.
Okay, super.
So all the back end costs are effectively included.
Gotcha. David is wondering, is there any equipment required on site at our data center?
That's a good question. Rubrik Cloud Vault will be able to be used by any Rubrik CDM appliance. So that would include on-prem bricks, as we call them. So on-prem appliances as well as our virtual appliances. So that covers either edge appliances or cloud clusters. They'll be able to leverage Rubrik Cloud Vault as an archival location.
Okay. Question from Michael: Are there any limitations on single file size?
That would just map to what we currently leverage for Azure. So it would depend on that. But anything that's currently covered by Rubrik for archival should be able to be leveraged with Rubrik Cloud Vault.
Okay. Let's see, a question here from Darren. Are there transport fees if recovering data to a different cloud provider? And I assume he's asking about Rubrik fees, just because there would definitely be fees, I assume, on the cloud provider side, depending on their terms of service. But
Yeah, so I'm not 100% sure I understand that question, but if you are currently, we don't support cloud to cloud recovery. If they're asking about the ability to bring the data back and then re-archive it to a different cloud provider, yes, you could in theory do that. We won't charge you for the egress fees from Rubrik Cloud Vault, if that answers the question. I'd love to follow up, so if you want to reach out privately or get my contact info, definitely love to have that conversation with you.
super. Joseph is asking about SLAs and how that works, based on the relationship. So are there Rubrik SLAs in addition to those offered by Microsoft?
That's a great question. It'll be covered by the agreement that you have. Rubrik will leverage Azure Azure storage, SLAs and redundancy functionality, so on and so forth. The SLAs, the retention levels that a customer wants to protect their data with, are up to the customer. So you would configure that in your SLA when you leverage the Rubrik platform. I hope that answers that question. And I see a lot of questions coming in. So Scott, if we can't get to all of them, if people want to follow up, by all means, please do.
Yeah,
But I
this
think we
is
have
a
time for,
great photo
yeah, we
question.
think we have time for most of them. And so I guess we can just start nailing them down.
Yeah. Here's one from Dan. asking, is the data encrypted and hidden so ransomware and hackers who may be on the network keep the data or it's safe from them?
Yes, data is encrypted. The Rubrik does that by default. So if you watched during the demo, we did provide an RSA key for encryption. So it is encrypted when it is sent and encrypted at rest. So,
Yeah.
and it is unknown to us.
Okay, great. Here's one from Eric is asking, does Rubrik offer a best practices guide to assist after we purchase your service?
We do. We do. We do have best practices recommendation. And in fact, we even have a fantastic offering, ransomware warranty. And basically, we give you a warranty that you can recover in the event of a ransomware attack. But within there, you can actually see all the best practices that you can follow and implement in order to make sure that you are resilient. So we do have that. Please check out our website, rubrik.com. Look up, the Rubrik warranty or plenty of the assets that we have that we talk about best practices to protecting and securing your data.
Okay, tremendous. Next question comes from Hani, who's asking, can the retention days be extended on the backup and archive tiers?
The retention days would be dictated by the SLA in the Rubrik platform. So the answer is yes. The Cloud Vault is just an archival location. All the retention functionality and durations would be configured at the SLA level, not at the Rubrik Cloud Vault level.
Okay, super. Harvey's is wondering if there's a single interface to manage everything and can it be automated end to end? So I guess everything is kind of broad there, but how much are is your pane of glass covering?
That's a great question. So
Yep.
the Rubrik, yeah.
Go. Yeah.
The Rubrik SaaS platform will allow the provisioning of Rubrik Cloud Vault and monitoring for it. More and more functionality is being brought into the Rubrik SaaS platform to bring that feature parity, with the goal being that will be the proverbial single pane of glass for visibility and management.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Question from Ashish. Does this provide security for Microsoft business applications like CRM and ERP?
If they are on-prem and it is a supported snappable by Rubrik, you can leverage Rubrik Cloud Vault as a target location. If it is not currently targeted for protecting SaaS applications, we do have separate solutions for that.
Okay, super. The question here is about is from Michael's asking, would a customer need a VPN tunnel to Rubrik's tenant or their own Azure tenant?
That's a great question. No, they would not need it. It's something on the roadmap, though.
Okay, super. Martin has a question about, how long does it take to upload about 12 terabytes from our Rubrik clusters to your cloud site? I mean, that might be kind of specific, but is there anything you can say about sort of rules of thumb for people in terms of?
That's going to be, and it depends. There's
Yeah,
a lot of variables in there. I wish I could give you a best answer on that one. There's so many variables in that, including customer connectivity, data size, so on and so forth. So
completely
unfortunately,
case by case. Yep.
yeah, it's case by case. I would say reach out to your account team. They can definitely do some napkin math to help you out.
Okay. It's another. Can we check or measure security in a dashboard or a report? Are there elements, of your platform that show sort of where people are in terms of their
Yeah,
security,
the web
their backups?
Rubrik does provide the ability to have audit reports and compliance reports done on successful backups or failed backup jobs. So you can do I believe we just call them a compliance report on all your data protection tasks. So you can see what's failed, what hasn't, what's in compliance, what hasn't been meeting its SLAs, so on and so forth.
Okay, great. You'd mentioned air-gapped a couple of times in the presentation. John has a question about that. Is the Cloud Vault considered an air-gapped copy of the data, or does the Rubrik solution make the air-gapped concept irrelevant? So maybe you can just kind of expand on that concept a little bit.
Christina, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So this is why we kind of say it's a logically air gap, because it is your data in the Rubrik tenant and it is isolated from your core IT environment, right? That's why we call it a logical air gap. But the Rubrik platform, to begin with, as we ingest the data, we also kind of logically air gap it, before we go ahead and back it up and store it. So with Rubrik Cloud Vault, you extend all the great security features that we have to the cloud, right? But technically, because it's your data in a Rubrik managed tenant, it is logically air gap from your isolated environment. It is logically air gap from your core IT environment.
Gotcha. Great. This next question from Darren, Brian, I don't know if this is getting in the weeds or and maybe it's something to get back to directly, but he's asking, is Cloud Vault a selectable option within Polaris for cloud native backups to be tiered to archive storage?
That's a great question. Cloud Vault is enabled once you subscribe to the service, so it will be enabled there. It is currently not targeted at cloud native backups, however, it is being actively discussed. Cloud native does have its own native tiering functionality for both Azure and AWS. So it's not necessarily the Rubrik Cloud Vault, but it is something that's currently being discussed for cloud native.
Okay. All right, super. Question from David, how are credentials managed that are used to access the vault?
So once you configure a cloud archive location with your encryption keys, it's upon the customer to manage those encryption keys and protect them to make sure they're not lost. I'll leave it at that. So the key is encrypted once it's inputted into the platform, and then that's it. So once it's lost, it's lost. So we have to make sure that that's protected.
Gotcha. All right, super. Well, we've had a ton of great questions here, I think I've gotten to most of them. But if there are any that you guys wanted to call out that you'd noticed, coming through over the transom here, feel free. But I think we got to most of them.
I think there were a few about the hardware, what kind of hardware is needed. And I think there is another one similar to hardware.
Okay.
If there is.
Yeah, I'm just scanning through.
It is a purely SaaS service, so there's no. The only requirements are a certain version of our platform, and
Okay.
then just had to be the SaaS service, and once it's enabled once it's procured.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think that Christina, there was a question I saw from Harvey. It was asking about, can I start with a 2U appliance and grow in 2U increments? But it sounds like it's all SaaS, so it's not an appliance situation.
Yeah.
Um,
So there is another
okay.
one. Is it possible to rotate the keys used to encrypt the Cloud Vault location? Security personnel are cracking down not to have static keys and allowed to update and automate key rotations. I think we talked about how you plug in the key, but is there something else you want to add to this one, Brian?
Not at the moment, no. I'd love to follow up on that.
Do you provide custom demo to our customers? Of course we will.
Yeah.
And I think somebody was asking about if it's available on AWS or on the other cloud providers. So at this point, Cloud Vault specifically is on Azure only. It is on the roadmap to add the other cloud providers, but for the now it's just Azure. However, keep in mind that you can still archive data today to any cloud, but obviously when you do that, it is kind of your environment and you end up managing everything, right? But for now, Cloud Vault is strictly offered on Azure.
Super.
And there's a couple of questions about is it included with CDM, our base product? I'd say defer to your account teams, reach out to them. It is a subscription service, but again, I would definitely reach out to your individual account teams to talk about packaging.
Okay.
And I know there is also, again, enterprise license costs, and the same thing, just, please reach out, to account services so you can get a breakdown on all the pricing and stuff.
Excellent.
And if some customers need to have any responsibility to manage it, like IT resources or server, etc., well, that's kind of the beauty that it's a fully managed service. Everything is done on the back end from us. So what you have to manage is kind of your SLAs with clusters you want to protect, and basically, configure it and say go. And as you saw in the demo, it is that simple. It's a matter of few steps and just making sure you have the right tiers, the right SLA configuration, and hitting done.
Okay. Yeah, some of these questions were related to, they were the underlying concept was somebody was an MSP. Do you guys have an MSP offering for, for this, or is that something on the roadmap?
Definitely follow up. That's an interesting
Yeah.
question that we've been toying with. So definitely reach out.
Okay. Excellent. Well, I think we've gotten through most of the questions there. But any closing thoughts there for Christina? I guess I'll start with you.
Well, no, on my end is like I just invite you to check out Rubrik.com and all the great things that we offer. First and foremost, the Rubrik data security platform itself, and then obviously the latest capability, Rubrik Cloud Vault. We protect all kind of hybrid workloads, tons of databases, virtual machines, cloud workloads, right? SaaS applications. So definitely check out the great customer success stories and look up, some of the videos, what customers were actually able to do with Rubrik, and they didn't have to pay the ransom, or they were super quickly able to recover and be back on their feet. So for my end, I just invite you to check out Rubrik.com and learn more about the product.
Excellent, thanks. And Brian, any closing thoughts on your side?
No, everything that Christina said. The demo was the actual product. You can literally go from 0 to an immutable ransomware copy, protected copy, in minutes. So if you're just starting out on your cloud journey, it is definitely something you should take a look at. I'll leave it there.
Awesome. Well, great demo, great presentation, and thanks to both of you for all the answers on the questions. We had so many, which is fantastic, and really appreciate you staying on and answering all those questions. And
Thank you.
just a reminder, yeah, and in the handout section, we do have those links for Rubrik and Rubrik Cloud Vault, so do check those out here in the last minutes of the presentation here. Before we wrap up, we do have one more piece of business. It's the $300 Amazon gift card prize drawing. And the winner of that $300 gift card is Bernie Brusk from Kansas. So congratulations to Bernie. We'll be in touch to get you your card. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank Christina and Brian for putting together this great presentation. And I'd also like to thank Rubrik and Microsoft for making this event possible. Last but not least, I'd like to thank you all again for attending and for all of your great questions today. That concludes today's event. Have a great rest of your day.